Hello, I'm Will Cole. I'm reading He's My Mom. I'm not here to tell a story about my mom. I'm here to tell a story about me as a mom. When my son was a teenager, I transitioned from his mom to his dad. So I'm what you call a seahorse dad, a man who has given birth. Growing up, I was a tomboy, but a middle child of 7 kids in a Mormon family in Utah, so exploring my identity meant shoving myself into the mold my parents modeled. Stay-at-home mom standing dutifully by her husband. I did begin that preordained journey. I married a Mormon man when I was 19 and gave birth when I was 22, the age my son is now. His name is Juma. When Juma was 2, his other dad and I left the Mormon faith. We began the potty training journey and the exodus from the church on the same weekend. We made a family trip to buy big boy underwear for all 3 of us. Over the following weeks, my son switched between his SpongeBob underoos and pull-ups, and I swapped my Mormon underwear for the least girly boy shorts I could find. That I preferred to call them big boy underwear for myself should have been a clue, but fast forward to the summer my son turned 15. He'd spent a few weeks visiting friends and family and just returned home, and I had spent the past year quietly exploring my gender identity. We sat on the steps outside catching up. Apropos of seemingly nothing, he came out to me as straight. I was proud of him and myself, not for being straight. I actually always hoped he'd be gay, but because it meant I'd raised him to be LGBTQ friendly. Straight was not the default in my house. Since we were on the LGBTQ subject anyway, I decided it was a good time for me to come out to him. At the time, non-binary felt like the right label. Hey, bud, I've got something important to tell you about me. No, don't say it. I know what you're gonna say, don't say it. This was not the reaction I was expecting. I was baffled. Dude, this is important to me. I'm non-binary. His face hardened. I don't believe you. What do you mean you don't believe me? What if I'd said to you, I don't believe you're straight? He's not. I wouldn't care because I know I'm straight. Teenagers. I felt myself getting upset, so I stepped away. After a couple hours, we reconvened, and I told him some of the things that made me feel I'm not a woman, like declaring I'm gonna be a boy when I grow up when I was 3. And thinking I'd grow up to have whiskers like Dad, and never feeling comfortable in women-only spaces, and 1,000 other things I've felt throughout my life. Dropping the label woman was liberating for me, not because I didn't want to be a woman, but because I'm just not one. Then I saw it click with him. Oh, okay, cool. What pronouns do you want me to use for you? That's my boy. As the months went by, I wasn't quite settled with the non-binary label. I continued in therapy, journaled, and inhaled trans memoirs. Eventually, the denial fell away, and I admitted to myself, I'm a guy. Juma was the first person I told, and he was on board. You say you're a guy, you're a guy. Like a teenager, he was most worried about how this might affect him and his school finals. I promised to keep things under wrap for a few months, but I did tell his dad, and we divorced a year later. As I slowly accepted my gender identity, I began to ponder what this meant for me as Juma's mom. At one point, I asked him if we could find an alternative label for mom, because mom felt very gendered to me. But you are my mom. It's not gendered to me. You're just mom. And I dropped it. I said, okay, this was a transition for both of us. After a year or so, Juma revealed that he had been mad at me because he thought he was losing his mom. But when I kept showing up for him, he realized I am the same person. I love him just as much. I just have a different look now. And I'm happier and better adjusted, which means I can be a better parent. It's been almost 8 years since Juma and I came out to each other. Recently, I asked him how this landed with all his friends and peers. He said for this, peer pressure didn't and doesn't matter. That the conversations we had at the time impressed on him how deeply I felt and how sure I was. And that mine was the only opinion that mattered. He said that when he mentions he has 2 dads, some people assume or ask if he's adopted, but he explains, and everyone has been chill about it, or even think it's kind of cool. But Juma also shared that he felt some guilt because he feared that his existence reminded me that I didn't always have a man's body. He assumed that I felt bad that my body had done woman things. And I can see his logic, but it's not how I feel. I'm grateful that I lived as a woman for 40 years before transitioning to live as a man. Though that doesn't mean we should force trans people to live in their assigned sex, I am proud to be a man who has given birth and breastfed. Those things didn't make me feel gender dysphoria. They were the only times I felt connected to my body before my transition. That is true, and it is true that removing my breasts and taking testosterone were life-saving. I love that I'm a man who has experienced motherhood and all the connection and complexity that brings. Juma calls me dad now. But I'll always cherish being Juma's mom. Life is beautifully, wonderfully not binary.